Which is the most important building in the world? I'm sure most people's answers will be the White House or even the UN General Assembly building in New York. But at least for the next 2 weeks, the most important building in the world is the Baku Stadium, the venue for COP29. Government officials, policymakers, donors, and non-state actors are meeting to discuss climate goals to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature within reach. The 29th International Conference of Parties to the UN Climate Framework convenes in Baku, Azerbaijan as global delegates meet to devise means to tackle the impacts of changing weather conditions affecting people and communities across the world. The annual event serves as a crucial meeting place for parties to negotiate and agree on ways to tackle climate change, reduce emission, and limit global warming. A primary task at COPs is the examination of national reports and emission inventories submitted by participating countries. Nearly 200 countries have committed to cut down renewable energy capacity to combat global warming. Fossil fuels are still the root causes of emissions, and leaders at COP29 unanimously agreed that the world needs to phase out fossil fuels such as coal and oil to reduce greenhouse gases polluting the atmosphere. The economic implications of this are huge for countries that depend on fossils for income, but growing commitment for climate deals present new hope for a better and greener future. COP29 will take place from November 11 to 22, 2024. The conference will focus on a range of issues, including climate finance, national climate commitments, loss and damage, adaptation, carbon markets, transparency reporting, and progress on past pledges. On Monday, the Gambia's Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources, Rohijon Manjang, accompanied by the Gambia's ambassador to the UN, His Excellency Lamin Diba, led the country's delegation to meetings with officials from UNCDF and FAO to discuss ways to unlock funding and technical support for the implementation of the Gambia's nationally determined contribution to climate change.
We've had great statements once again, and we're hoping that this statement will translate into actions. Now we need actions. A lot has been said, commitments have been made, but the actions are not enough to commensurate to commitments. And as this COP is, we're looking forward to the new collective quantified goals to raise the bar of concessions. We need to agree on the terms and conditions in terms of climate finance. Yes, climate finance has been the key instrument needed to have our climate actions realized, but they have not been forthcoming, and it's unfortunate. The impact of climate change is aggravating year-round, and now the basket has increased from the billion to the trillions. So indicating that now we even need a lot more commitments to realize actions.
Countries that is highly vulnerable to climate change in all forms. Look at agriculture as a sector, and looking at the 4 thematic areas that the Gambia is cooperating with the FAO on the country strategy paper, one of which is sustainable natural resource management for climate change adaptation and mitigation. This rhymes very well with the NDC that we have now developed that looks at the various sectors of the economy that contributes to climate change. And agriculture is one of the areas, priority areas that are identified.
In response, the Director of the Office of Climate Change, Biodiversity and Environment at FAO assured FAO's commitment to supporting countries with their implementation plans.
When it comes to the NDCs and their implementation, we have a number of initiatives that we are running with countries that look specifically at, first of all, how to develop the NDC so agriculture and food systems is better integrated. In your case, you mentioned a lot forestry, but I would be interested to know how much of the broader agriculture and food systems and the solutions that they offer is embedded in your NDC. And this is something that we can explore with you, because that's a starting point for the bigger investments.
COP29 is known as Finance COP because a new climate finance goal is expected to be a major focus of the summit. The goal is to mobilize funds to help developing countries transition to low emissions economies and adapt to climate change. Fossil fuels,
coal, oil and gas are by far the largest contributors to global climate change, accounting for over 75% of global greenhouse gas emissions and nearly 90% of all carbon dioxide emissions. The 2024 UN Climate Change Conference COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan is expected to host around 50,000 participants, a scale down from the record-breaking 100,000 attendees at COP28 in Dubai last year. Reporting for GRTS News in Baku, Azerbaijan, I am Omar P. Jallo.